And now we're live. Hey, everyone. Dr. Kennard here. Dr. Tomfoolery Vector User. He states that they're useful. I believe him. I have no reason to not believe that vectors can be useful.
Especially in vector fields.
Yes, which I don't really understand.
Oh, Andy.
So what is a vector? So now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Hmm?
Tell me what a vector field is.
A vector field is a field of vectors, as you might imply. But a vector, specifically, is, depending on the context, can be described in a few different ways. Simplest way of describing it is something that has a magnitude and a direction.
Okay. Sure.
And a field of those is where you just have like an array of how many ever dimensional field you have, where there is a vector at each point.
Okay. You know, a lot of, and good morning, Phil Lister. I hope you're doing well this morning. A lot of my interviews that I've done with people is just basically having them explain things to my stupid meat brain. To tell you the truth, it's completely selfish why I do interviews too, and I haven't done one for a while. Is that so I can learn stuff and get free books? What's up, Bonnie?
You get free books from interviewing?
Sometimes if the person, if it's an author, then they'll send me a free book. Yeah.
Fancy.
Because I read the books of people who come on here. What's up, Tobin?
Morning. Hello.
You're looking dapper this morning, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, I got out a whole bunch of clothes, changing the season, and I noticed all my dress clothes, and I'm like, I hardly ever wear these. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? This is a great time to, get dressed up.
Sure, definitely. What's up, John Hudson?
John.
Good morning, folks.
John's dressed up.
It's cold. It was like 57 degrees this morning, like winter.
So how cold does it actually get out there, John Hudson, in the middle of winter?
Last year we had a couple cold days, but usually I'm gonna say it's about gets down 40s maybe.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Ray?
Yeah, it gets down to minus 40 here at times.
Minus, yeah. I don't think we get that cold over here in Massachusetts. Dr. Tomfoolery.
What's up, Rage?
Hey, what's up, yo?
So, Rage, what's going on with you? Every single time I hear about you, you're sick or something's going wrong. You got some kind of virus?
Yeah. I picked up a flu. I think I got it from my daughter. It's like the second flu I've had since we stopped wearing masks. So it's, and this one has been really rough. But I'm starting to get over it today. I'm starting to feel a little better.
That's good, dude. That's good.
Well, that's what I was wondering is once this mask stuff kind of goes away, what kind of new sicknesses are
Yeah.
Don't tell me masks are going away.
Yeah, I know. After this most recent flu, I'm going to start wearing them again. Like I said it before, and I never followed up. Like the moment I could stop wearing masks, I did. But I think I'm going to start wearing it again, especially at work. Because I'm around so many people, potentially unvaccinated people, that these germs are, they're making up for lost time, I think.
Well, yeah, that, and I think that's wise to do, Rage, to tell you the truth, man, because you're working like a petri dish of pathogens.
Yeah. And that whole year and a half of the pandemic, didn't get sick once, except for actually having COVID. And now I've been sick twice in like 2 months.
Yeah, people have observed. Scientists, I think there's been at least a couple of studies out about when people start taking off masks, they start getting the flus, the colds, much more frequently.
Yeah, this one was vicious. I was completely out of it yesterday. Somehow managed to make a video about Jill, but that doesn't take much brain power.
Right. I only saw part of that because I'm like doing things before the show. It's like, oh, Rage has a video up, and so I watching. So I heard that you were sick, and then it's like, oh no, I'm supposed to be live right now. Maybe I should start doing live things.
That was a funny video because at the end of it, Jill fully admits that believing in a God that created the universe is not rational.
Yeah, I actually caught that video yesterday. I didn't catch it live, but yeah, it was. Them people are fucking crazies.
Well, that's honest, at least, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure now that he knows that I cut it out, he'll have some explanations.
But it's rational to be irrational. I can already fucking do this line. Everyone makes irrational assumptions about the universe, but the thing is, you gotta be rational. You gotta be rational about your irrational choices.
Yeah. Like I don't. I'm gonna start asking the question on my channel. I'm writing up the script right now. It's why don't you worship ... And I'm gonna start with the Anunnaki, right? And I'm gonna just go back to these really ancient religions and ask, like, if you truly believe that a God created the universe, why wouldn't you go back to like some of these original gods to its source, right?
Yeah, dude, completely. I think you're spot on with that. But of course, they would tell you that, well, God was the real God. Those are just fake gods, fake news gods.
Yeah. Or they'll say that they were like early iterations of the one true God that we now know, and it's like, you're just insane.
So God had evolution process going on with it.
Listen, Tobin, it's micro evolution. At no point did God change species. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. That should be a video. The evolution of God.
Yeah. Strictly micro, though.
But yeah, so I'm working on that. It's kind of fun, but like your topic today was really fascinating because I'm scared shitless that like true fascism is coming to the country, and I think that it's going to start with these abortion laws going before the Supreme Court, and I think if we don't stack this court, we're in some trouble.
Yeah, well, it's a problem, and once again, the erosion of faith, justly so, in the Supreme Court is just another step towards fascism, right? Because fascists just want you to have faith in the executive and in overreaching power of the executive.
Yeah, I kind of put that in the side chat. It was like, it's unfortunate that the right is using this talking point now because when they do these things, it takes away from real issues. Like when Donald Trump attacked the media, it takes away from the real issue of the media being owned by corporations. And so now, like, they're taken away because they're the ones that have actually stacked the court. And now that we're talking about balancing that court out, then they have to kind of hijack the narrative, take away from the original issue, and make it this thing that it's hard to not defend the Supreme Court when there needs to be changes made to the Supreme Court, and they've made horrific rulings over the past 20-30 years especially. But yeah, you're right, we can't allow the degradation of our systems. We need to enforce them and make them the systems they're supposed to be, not the things that they are.
Right. Well, what fucks me up is John Roberts being the voice of reason.
Yeah, and historically, he's usually sided on with us on the abortion issue, and this is why they haven't been successful. But with their recent nominations, and I think that Trump's picks are starting to really show their true colors in their most recent rulings. That we're in trouble because Roberts is going to be under a lot of political pressure, and already is. If you listen to right-wing talk radio, they're already putting the pressure on Roberts. They're singling him out as he's the one that's gonna just mess this up for us, which is a tactic that they're going to use to get him to side with them.
That's why I like that whenever we talk about the Supreme Court. Let me back up. Republicans are always good about being on the attack, right? Partly because they are indefensible, so they have to be on the attack. And I think one of the big problems looking back at the Biden administration in like years to come is that they didn't seize this opportunity. Once again, I'm going to keep hammering this point about Puerto Rico and DC statehood.
Yeah, I mean, I think I try not to be too critical of Biden because I think he's actually proving to be one of the most progressive presidents we've ever had.
I agree.
But he does. You're right. He's not going far enough with it. He is still trying to appease that moderate base, and I'm surprised because he ran on a moderate platform, but he's been progressive. And I think if you're going to I can't think of my words. I'm still sick. But if you're going to like do your officiating from a progressive stand, then just do it. You're going to be loved for it. But you got to. The fight is against those moderates, those Nancy Pelosi's, and I don't think he's really willing to fight that fight.
Yeah. I believe that he still has the naivete to think that the legislature will work on things and is a functional body.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen with the negotiations, especially, is that the structural problems that were before Trump are still there, right? About the legislature still not really being a functional body in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you really think about it, there's no reason DC and Puerto Rico aren't states yet. I mean, DC would be a very small state, probably the smallest state of the union, but it's also the seat of our national power, right? Like it's our national government. And I think statehood would really do a lot for the neighborhoods surrounding DC, because right now they're just left to rot. I mean, they've got some of the worst ghettos in America. And I think statehood would go a long way to fix that. And Puerto Rico, to me, is a no-brainer. Like, how is this not a state yet?
Right. With DC, I mean, DC would be physically the smallest state, but I know in population, Vermont only has 500,000 people or so.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty sure DC would be,
population-wise, DC might end up beating Vermont out because they are populated.
Vermont, Wyoming, maybe a couple others.
Yeah, indeed. I did not see Bernie yesterday. I did not hear Bernie yesterday, Donna. No.
Oh, he went at Manchin over the entitlement society thing.
Yeah.
And Bernie being Bernie, brilliant. We should have elected him. But at the same time, just like I said, Biden ran on a moderate platform and he's been rather progressive. I don't have too many bitches.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing about Sanders is that he's not afraid to talk.
Never has been, man. I first fell in love with the dude, and I'll put it that way bluntly, because I fell in love with him when he was standing on the floor during that first Iraqi war, hour after hour after hour in protest. I'm like, this is my guy. And as soon as he put his foot in the ring against Hillary, I flipped from Hillary to Bernie, just like that.
My fictitious God rage. Now I don't even know which war you were referencing in terms of the first one, because it could be Operation Desert Storm back in the 90s.
That's Desert Storm is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
All right, because there's like a gaggle of Iraq wars.
Yeah, that one where we went to protect our oil in Kuwait.
Right. Oh man. D says, I don't know, guys. Biden, the addled-brained guy, has been an absolute power Nazi style, and no one's come for guns. The stock market didn't fall, and he didn't give the country to China. That's right. All those, just like all these right-wing talking points, they want you to think it's the end of the freaking world whenever the Democrats win anything. It was the end of the world when gay marriage happened. It was the end of the world when Biden got elected. It was the end of the world when Medicare and Medicaid became a thing.
Well, and they said all those things about Obama. He's going to take your guns right up until the day he left office. I'm like, he didn't do it. The bastard.
Yeah.
Through my lifetime, it is just like shifted through my life. Like it's been Republican and Democrat, Republican, Democrat. It just doesn't seem like there's consistency.
There is no consistency. Well, there is a structure. There is a deep structure to this. Is that people elect Democrats for presidents when Republicans fuck up so much.
Well, and I think the trend the grassroots trend on the left. We are starting to elect people in office that are real representations of real people. Like even AOC, I think the power went to her head a bit, but like here lately, it's like she's come back down and she remembers who she is and what she is. Like the thing she put out about breaking up Facebook the other day was brilliant. Like this is FDR shit, So,
yeah. When you hear about the whistleblower, Francis, I forget, I think Hagen, her last name is, it's pretty damning stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, and kind of obviously apparent, like when you really stop to think about it, Facebook to an extent, but especially like Snapchat, Instagram, places like these where these young people, like I've ran into an issue with my daughter. She's 11 years old, and I recently caught her on a Snapchat account. And it's I think that these are obviously harmful for children.
Yeah.
Obviously, putting children into an adult world where they don't need to be yet.
Yeah. I thank my fictitious God that both of my kids are antisocial. And really aren't on social media. Yeah, I just got lucky with that. And I try to, part of the Jedi training is having a healthy contempt.
But it's a fine line, because at the same time you want to fight for neutrality. You want to fight, you want to fight for your right to have a voice on the internet. So there's always that slippery slope fallacy, I guess. But you truly have to worry about it with these things when we do start grasping at certain freedoms. But I think it's a big enough issue we can't ignore it.
I think it's clear that how Facebook in 2018 rejiggered its algorithm to make it even more toxic. That was bad. That was probably
and historically we can see reactions to this was their big tobacco moment from the early 80s when big tobacco, when it came out, big tobacco was hiding the ramifications to people's health through their products. The same thing kind of happened with the oil companies, but the oil makes so much money that people just overlook it. But oil companies spend a good chunk of their resources on fake science and fake propaganda to combat the climate change. So I mean, the fact we should see something, I think, happen, but it's really going to depend on corporations' ownership of the government if something is going to happen now like it did in the past.
True enough. Yeah, I mean, even the lead industry, because when I was growing up, there was lead gasoline, there was lead in paint, and everyone knew lead was deadly. Everyone knew that lead causes brain damage. We've known that since the Romans, when people were coming out of the mines acting kind of weird. But the lead industry, fought tooth and nail against the science and the legislation.
Yeah, it's money. It becomes the god of people. People will pretend to worship the Christian God or the Islamic God or the Hindu God or the Buddhist God or whatever God or no God, but ultimately it comes down to that money.
Well, it's about incentives. I was listening to Sam Harris's latest podcast episode with Andrew Yang, and both of them talked about the incentives this system has on people to act in irrational and mean and short-sighted ways.
Yeah,
it's crazy. One of the last history lessons I just recently learned was about the London fog and how they were using coal, and they didn't really understand why there were so many deaths. They didn't really link it all up, but it is made what there is their air pollution laws and regulation to this day, and it was like very apparent that they were burning stuff and it was harming people, and it was like so bad it was making a green fog throughout the whole land. Holy shit.
There's the famous example when you I don't know if you remember your evolution class in biology, but when they talk about adaptation, there's the moth, I think it was in Manchester, that there was amongst that population, amongst the species of moth, there was a variety of different colors, right? And there were some white moths, there were some brown moths, there were some darker color moths. And because of all the soot, it became, there was adaptation pressures on the moth to change from being light colored to just being dark colored. And yeah, pollution can affect the entire system in different ways, in ways that you wouldn't even guess at originally.
Yeah, there's like before and after photos of places like New York City or LA back when we didn't have environmental protections, you know, all that regulation that Donald Trump spent all of his time getting rid of. There was these smogs over these cities, and you could they have pictures of it, and it's fascinating because it's completely gone now. And how easy would it be for us to put that just dirt back into the air that we breathe? And it seems like a lot of companies want to do that, and we're willing to do that the moment that Trump took down those regulations.
Oh my God, the shit air that was in Salt Lake City when I was growing up and a kid, you know, as a kid, between Kennecott, the copper mine up there, and Vitro, which was uranium processing, and Sharon Steel, Geneva Steel. I mean, the air was shit. And then everybody got burning barrel. Salt Lake City sits in a valley with mountains on both sides, and they get the temperature inversion. And I mean, that air gets so goddamn bad you can cut it with a knife. They've cleaned it up a lot, but they still get a hell of an inversion during the wintertime.
On the podcast Hidden Brain, they were talking about particulate matter in the air. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and how it affects our cognitive abilities. So when there's shitty air, it makes us dumber, basically. I just boiled down all this research. And there's actually, and yeah, there are actually ways that you can test people to, in terms of how much particulate matter is in the air and how well they can function cognitively.
Oh, I would have been a fucking Albert Einstein without all the fucking shit that went in my body.
But one of the interesting things I learned from that episode is that people in Detroit had to bring 2 white shirts a day into work because the white shirt got nasty midway through the day. And so they had to put on the new shirt to make sure it was still white. And that's how bad things were before the clean air.
And they want to act like there's no that humans don't affect our environment.
Yeah.
And that we're not responsible for a climate change and things like that. That is ridiculous. Like, we have so much hard facts. We have history.
Well, yeah, like even most Republicans understand that there's a human impact on this planet and want to do something about it. It's mainly, you know, it's your very ignorant people that'll be really loud with their anti-climate stuff because they just follow Fox News hook, line, and sinker. But it's mainly the politicians you know, getting paid by these oil people, which is still the biggest industry in the world, to continue this process and to continue, you know, to try to bring us back to where they can actually make their profits again, because, you know, their profits have taken a hit since all of this new clean energy and clean air initiatives have came about. You know, like, it's really a set of Republicans and moderate Democrats that are holding this country back and the world.
Oh yeah, true enough.
They'll acknowledge climate change, but they say, but what about the profits? As if profits matter if people die.
Yeah.
It all matters if the right people die. That's all. Another thing I learned from this particular episode of Hidden Brain is that poorer portions of cities were, and this is going to sound so self-evident when you hear it, poorer sections of cities during the industrial age were created downwind from the stacks, from pollution. So, and typically that's on eastern sections of cities because of how the wind blows here in the States. So poorer sections were typically on the eastern end of the city because that's the way the wind blowed. It just blew all the pollution that way.
Well, it's El Paso next to Juarez. When the wind blows, it's generally blowing from America's side over to the Mexican side, and the air is shittier. But when the wind actually comes up from the south, there, El Paso gets pretty nasty. I mean, El Paso is, I think, 1 million people, where Juarez is like 20 million.
Do they blame it on the Mexicans at that point, John Hudson?
I don't blame it. I mean,
No, I mean, not you, of course, because you're a smart guy. But I can see it's like people just living there. It's like, why is all this pollution coming in? I blame it on the Mexicans. When, of course, it's just their own pollution being blown back at them. It's like pissing in the wind. It's like, why am I so fucking wet?
Reminds me of that viral video going around where the lady's like, why are all these homeless people not dying in the streets of COVID? And the homeless dude is like, because we're vaccinated, you stupid bitch.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that. That's gold.
Yeah, there was one and done. Just give them the J&J. You don't have to worry about a second shot. And yeah.
Man, I laughed my ass off. Like yesterday when I was sick as hell, it was the first time I saw it, and man, I just laughed. It took me out of my sickness.
What did you see, Rach?
It's this viral video. This woman is doing her protest. It's like this anti-mask protest, and she's screaming, why are all these homeless people not dying in the streets of COVID? And the homeless person says, because we're vaccinated, you stupid bitch. It's just hilarious. Yeah, it's going viral, so I'm surprised you haven't seen it, Andy.
I haven't seen it yet, dude. I have to check it out. I've been doing this job thing, and so my time has been limited doing work. So my ability to watch viral stuff and to stay in touch with how things are going, it's unfortunately limited. It's hilarious. Cryptomaria says, "I'll have to check it out."
And just true. It's. I was listening to right-wing radio the other day, and they were talking about how these variant mutations are because we got vaccinated. And I'm like, oh man, I have to look into science about this shit now.
Well,
they were mutating prior to the vaccination.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It just shows you how much remedial work you have. Well, it shows you how shitty the education system here is in the States. Because if you can't debunk that with just maybe even middle school science, that's a failure.
Yeah, well, that was my initial thought was the first variant came out well before the vaccines did. What are you talking about?
So if the creation of new variants is based on the amount that the virus is replicating in your system, right? Or in the system of people's bodies, right? So in other words, the more it replicates, the more variants you're going to get. If the vaccine limits the amount of virus you have in your body, even if you get a breakthrough infection, it stands to fucking reason.
Yeah, you're lessening the odds.
But that's the thing, though. If you listen, because I do listen to right-wing radio.
I'm sorry.
My car radio station is set to 95.3, which is the local radio station, and it's nonstop right-wing shit. And I listen to Hannity. Back in the day, it was Limbaugh. Now I don't even know who the guy is, but it's somebody else now. Finally, they stopped pretending like Limbaugh was a god. But their whole narrative for hour after hour after hour is this, anti-vaccine. They are taking your liberty. They're taking your freedom. This is what fascism looks like. It's hour after hour of that pounded into. I mean, Rush Limbaugh's audience was 50 million people, right? I mean, that's a lot of people.
To this shit.
I
you feel like hell.
It's that old philosopher Zhu, Art of War, know your enemy.
I have a copy of that somewhere here too.
Oh God, Reg, how do you do it?
I don't know. It's probably how I developed my patience to deal with some of the Christians I deal with.
Yeah. I don't argue with 5-year-olds. I don't argue with Christians, just fuck it,
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of the focus gets put on Fox News, but Fox News is actually really moderate. This right-wing radio has been extreme for 20 years, and they feed millions of people with this rhetoric, and that hammers home.
I've got family members that buy into that shit,
Yeah, I commented on my Facebook yesterday that I'm seeing more revolutionary posts on Facebook from the Hickerbillies down in North Carolina than I've ever seen before. And it's because, you know, they're getting fed this narrative. They're taking your freedom. Stand for your freedom. Pray. You know, you'll see that. I see the meme every day now on Facebook. Prayers for those that are losing, that are quitting their careers today to keep their freedom. Like, this shit is getting serious now.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you look at the numbers, most people aren't quitting their fucking jobs. Most people aren't quitting their jobs. They're getting the jab. That's what they
The other day on one of the shows, somebody came in anti-mask, anti-vaccine. She had chosen to get the vaccine to keep her job.
Sure.
And she was honest about it. The moment she left the show, they started getting calls about how awful she was that she got the vaccine, a traitor to the cause. Like, I mean, it was surreal, dude. It's fucking eerie.
Well, that's the nature of these systems, right? Is that they have to purge anyone who doesn't believe in what they believe, what the official line is. Yeah.
I say fucking just let them do their shit. It's going to thin the population. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Fuck
I mean,
it.
that is
lose your job, go into fucking poverty. Who gives a fuck? Yeah,
you know, there is that. You know, I've been guilty of saying it a few times. You know, let natural selection do its thing. But you know, as a humanist, we got to try to save lives and talk them out of their idiocy. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the innocent person that can't get the vaccine. It's the child that isn't able to get the shot. It's the only fucking sympathy I have at this point. You know.
Yes.
Anybody else who dies from it, I could really give a fat fuck.
You know, and I'm unclear because I was like super happy. My daughter's going to be 12 in December, and I'm like, she'll be able to get her vaccine. But now I'm hearing it's 12 and under can't get it. So she can't get it until she's 13. That like freaks me out.
Well, Pfizer's working on 5 to 12.
That's what I heard too.
And I think we'll be seeing it before Thanksgiving.
Because you know, like it's running all through the schools now because we're back into school, and
one in 4 COVID patients is a child.
I don't, you know, I always have to parse my words on these shows so that I don't get banned. That being said, I imagine that there are parents who bring their kids in and get a shot that may not be old enough. That's what I think.
Yeah, if you could somehow, if you can get away with it, I'm sure that there are.
When my kid, who was appropriately aged, got her shot, they didn't ask for really ID. They asked us to sign a paper, basically. Actually, my girlfriend did it. Because I was busy, I was working, and she's a freaking saint, the girlfriend. So she brought my kid down to get the shots, you know, first and second shot. And the only thing she had to say is that I'm an adult. I'm signing off on this, and nothing else.
Yeah, that would be. I wish I could do that. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because if I could do that, then I'll do it tomorrow. You know, because that's my. You know, it's running rampant. Like, and they keep discussing. Are you going to go back to school at home now because it's running and kids are getting it? That was the argument. Kids can't get it or they didn't get it as bad, and they're getting it.
School shut down here because the kids were getting so sick that they're. They lost attendance,
and we're right on the verge of it here, you know. And it's like, just do it, you know, because I'm scared to send my kid to school.
Here's the question: when people say most kids won't get it, most kids won't get sick, and then I say, well, how many dead kids is okay to keep the schools open? Are you saying
exactly
that let's say 100? I feel like this is an Old Testament narrative, wrestling with God. So. Well, 100 dead kids, is that enough to close the schools? Is 50 dead?
Are they trying to run it up higher than the Catholic Church?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kids don't matter. They're already born.
They talk about, you know, the social ramifications and all, and it's like there should, until it's safe to go back to school, they shouldn't be in school, you know, unless they're old enough to be vaccinated. And then, you know, it's like, I'm sure we have, like, it's been an issue of the unvaccinated in public schools, and I'm pretty sure most public schools don't allow that anymore, right? Like, I'm hoping anyway.
I
mean, you don't want somebody coming in with measles because
if you knew that there, and this is, you know, we talked about this before, but I mean, if you knew that there was going to be a vaccine out for students who are like older students, I don't know, 12 to 17, whatever the age range is, why would you open schools up before the kids got vaccinated? Why wouldn't you just wait for a couple of months until the school?
Yeah, especially when we have the technology to continue their learning at home. We have that technology.
And the thing is, the Democrats and the Republicans are to blame on this.
They're called grandpas.
Yeah.
The technology to try to teach a kid at home, they're called grandpas. They're called parents.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we also have Zoom, and I mean, like my daughter was in class with her teachers every single day. We can, until it's safe. We got it. In my opinion, we just got to go back to that. But unfortunately, this is a politically charged conversation, and half the country is like literally talking revolution.
But it's amazing. Even if you don't like do the Zoom stuff, like you can order books.
I
and they
sat
send
for
them to your house. They actually
sat
come
for
in
2
the
weeks.
mail. It's amazing.
I
But
sat for 2 weeks being a fucking school teacher with the Zoom. I teach the boy more in 2 hours than they did in the 8 hours he was there.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. I teach my daughter way more than the school teaches her, and I try to teach her accurately and get her to read good books. But these school systems are under siege.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. Like they are under fire, and they are catching hell from parents that have been fueled with propaganda, and these parents refuse to be quiet. And we're touching on an issue of parents' rights and their children, and it's a very touchy subject. And there's really no right answers here because unfortunately politicians and right-wing media are firing up these people for whatever reasons that they have, and mainly it's I guess to get Trump back in power and to take dictatorship.
Yeah. I think it just shows you the importance about talking about skepticism and supporting skeptical institutions when we aren't in crisis, right? So that when someone says something that may not be reality based, in our personal lives, to at least address it, and to you don't have to be super confrontational, but to say things like, I don't know, how do you know what you know? Why do you say that? To open up this kind of dialogue when we aren't in crisis, at least try to nudge people towards being able to think properly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like Q is still a problem. I was watching. You heard the story about that police union leader that was arrested.
Yeah, I heard about that, dude.
Dude recently put out a something on the internet, and he had a Q cup.
Sure.
In the background, like it's insane.
It's important to note that there's always going to be in this country this kind of simmering witch hunt mentality. You can see it once again in Salem witch trials. You can see it during the kind of 50s anti-communism. You can see it during the 80s during the Satanic Panic. You can see it now with Q. It's all this kind of simmering, and it boils up every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I thought when they found out who Q was that would be the end of Q, but I guess they never got the memo.
Dude, how many raptures have we lived through in our lifetime, right?
Actually, Crypta, I haven't watched TYT in a long time. The police thing, yeah, the police thing is a national story now, and it's kind of put me in this awkward position. I've never really supported police unions, but I support unions. Yeah. So it puts me in this really awkward position of, unions can sometimes be a bad thing, and you see that through the police unions, but the rest of them are okay. So I usually don't like these conversations, but it's a national story, and this dude, we don't really know what he did yet, but he did some bad shit. There's whatever he was doing, it was some deep down scoundrel shit.
Right.
Hey, I just wanted to put out there, Kellogg's is on strike. Don't be buying no fucking Frosted Flakes.
Oh yeah, we got to pick. Oh, actually, that's a misnomer, because you actually want to buy the products, because that shows sales, and the company will actually be more willing to negotiate with the strikers. You just want to make sure you're buying the made in America product and not the product that's made overseas. That's one.
They want to make it in Mexico.
Yeah. But we have picket lines here in Battle Creek. Kellogg's is here. We are Cereal City, USA, and I fully support the strikes. I've been down there. I went once before when it was just starting up, before I got sick. I went down there once yesterday, but I was way too sick to stay, and I was pretty much delirious. But fully support the strike, and I hope they get what they're asking for, but I don't think they're going to. I think that Kellogg's is probably just going to go AI and move to Mexico.
Why are they striking?
It's been a constant regression of taking away pay and benefits.
It's been going for about a year now.
Layoffs, and so I mean they couldn't strike a bargaining agreement, so they started striking. I think it was 4 days ago they called for the strike, and it came together pretty quick.
This is the reason why we need to. This is why there's an international aspect of free. It sounds so stupid to say it with the words coming out of my mouth, but there's an international aspect of fighting for rights, for workers' rights,
everywhere,
everywhere. So that if companies do move their companies overseas, they should be facing, unions over there too. There should be some kind of system to export unions and to work on governments overseas. It isn't just taking care of our own people here in the States.
So, Rage, if they're on strike, do they have scabs that are rats that are working the lines?
I'm not sure. The longer a strike goes on, the more chance of that happening, and them bringing in their strike busters. But I don't really see Kellogg's bowing. But I'm kind of like that by nature. I don't have much faith in big corporations. Right. It's been a steady decline, first with the automotive industry here, but now into the cereal industry. And these were kind of major backbones of the Michigan economy.
So this is what Anthony Shelton, president of the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Unions, International Union, says. Kellogg's response to these loyal, hardworking employees has been to demand these workers give up quality health care, retirement benefits, and holiday and vacation pay. The company continues to threaten to send additional jobs to Mexico if workers do not accept outrageous proposals that take away protections that workers have had for decades. Yeah. And these are people who've been working through the pandemic too.
Yeah, I mean, here in town, they're considered the best jobs in town. They're very hard to get because people don't leave them. Because Kellogg's has always been one of the highest paying industries here in town, and people have built careers through Kellogg's, have built family generations through Kellogg's here in Battle Creek. So and Post as well, but Post has been on the downswing for quite a long time. Kellogg's has kind of stood up there tall. And it's been a complete degradation of workers' rights. And you sit at any bar here in Battle Creek and you'll hear it every single night as a Kellogg's worker comes in and talks about the shit.
I would want the people who are making our breakfast cereal to be treated very well, because I like my cereal. It is good stuff.
I'm telling you, 6 o'clock here in Battle Creek.
Enjoy making it for me, because
I couldn't imagine Kellogg's not. 6 o'clock here in Battle Creek every night smells like Fruity Pebbles. Every night. It's this brilliant smell that you walk through town with,
Oh, that's awesome.
I will confess.
I'm not a cereal fan, but I'm behind anybody who strikes for better rights.
Oh yeah.
Or to keep what you have, even, is what it sounds like the fight's about.
Yeah, I think they're going to move to Mexico. I really do. I just, these corporations, there's this media war right now because, labor, there's this quote unquote labor shortage, but really there's this demand, and capitalists don't like it when you put things in capitalist terms, because right now the workers have the upper hand. And so corporations are really striking back with media campaigns, propaganda, and really harsh, environments for the workers.
Yeah. And you could see that they're afraid. A bunch of these institutions like Big Pharma, companies fighting against laborers. You see the ads on TV, the fossil fuel industry. They know that they could be suffering, that they could get hits on their bottom line. And that's why they're fighting so hard.
Mm-hmm. I just, I hope one day change and reform comes to the restaurant industry, because to me, I've worked the restaurant industry a long time. It's one of the great injustices. People are getting really rich and their workers are staying really, really poor. There is no unions, and when you have the rare examples that the industry becomes unionized, like it was in Vegas, then you have really good results from that. But there's been a lockdown on unions throughout most of the country when it comes to the restaurant business, and I won't be a part of it for much longer. I'm looking to get out of it once again, but I hope reform comes one day, because most of our young children start there. Start their working lives there.
I was when I was looking for work, I did an interview at a restaurant down the street from here, actually, and they're like, every weekend, and I'm like, really? You can't figure out the schedule to give people every other weekend off?
Oh yeah, most of my restaurant career, I have worked weekends. That's where you make your money, so that's it's kind of stupid not to. As I've gotten older and I've kind of risen in the ranks, I can pretty much take my time off whenever I want. But most of my career, when I first went to the factory, started working in the automotive industry, it amazed me getting PTO and weekends off. Like, what the fuck am I going to do on a weekend?
I actually kind of like working through the weekend and having like Monday or Tuesday Wednesday off, because then you basically get town all to yourself in a way, because everybody else is at work while you're off. I don't know.
This job has been different for me because this is the first Monday through Friday job I've had ever. This is the first Monday through Friday job. And it feels weird. It just feels weird having weekends completely off and only working one job. It's odd.
Yeah, but that's what I'm looking for. First shift job, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I can get my daughter to school and put her in an after school program till I get out of work. It would work out perfect.
What we have seen, and the data shows this, is that people are moving around job wise, in terms of careers. And if you're going to find a position, this is the time to do it before things amplify again. That's
my thinking. Right now is the perfect time. And it's really like the restaurant business is taking a hit because a lot of people have moved on from the restaurant business because there are places looking for labor's in demand. Workers are in demand. So I'm hoping to use my skill set and get a better job. But I've always kind of worked. I'm a little scared, if I can get a 9 to 5, but oftentimes first shift jobs nowadays, corporations will bring you in at 5 or 6. And it's like, no, I have a child. I have to get her to school. Like, what happened to corporations actually respecting the parent? Because I grew up with my dad getting us to school, going to work. Now it's like, nope, come in at the butt ass crack of morning.
Yeah. Is that real? Well, one of the things that we've learned during the pandemic, right, is that a lot of these arbitrary rules that employers have actually turn out to be arbitrary rules employers have.
Yeah.
People don't have to be in the fucking office all the time. For many jobs, they don't have to be.
Well, yeah, we have so much technology now. Like it's literally a new world. Why are we still stuck working the same way we always did?
Sammy's in the chat. Hello, Sam.
I'm liking my new work as a photographer. It's pays good. We've got a wedding we're doing Saturday. It's 8 hours.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like a project. That's what that sounds like.
I mean, I've been in management a long time, so.
But the money is here in Hill Country, and people come all over Texas to get married in Hill Country.
Oh, yeah.
And my daughter is capitalized on this. And, if it wasn't for necessity, I probably wouldn't have jumped in with this, but her being 8 months pregnant makes it really hard to do these shoots. And then she works full time too. That I'm like, just take them jobs during the day that you can't, if you can't make it, I can. Yeah. And I'm like, I taught you how to shoot, little girls. So,
Just by a raise of hands, when John said hill country, you thought hills have eyes.
I've never seen it.
Nothing
even
like that.
I've seen it. Yeah.
You've seen it. All right. Yeah. It's a classic. There's been different iterations of it, but yeah.
It's a beautiful place, man.
Yeah,
These
imagine a
riverfront
raging
cities have-
atheist scared of horror movies, but I am. I don't like horror
Wow, dude,
movies.
really, huh?
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street scarred me as a 5-year-old child.
Well,
I don't like gore either. Like the movies that are like watching people get ripped up and stuff. I'm like, ugh. Eh.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
love Shaun of the Dead.
oh, dude, that's a great movie.
Well, like I really enjoyed the first Saw. Like it has to be like really artsy. I didn't like any of the other Saws. Like I tried to watch
Yeah.
2, and I'm like, nope, this ain't for me. But you know, my dad made me watch Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I was 5, maybe 6. Like I don't think he understood how bad it was going to be.
Oh yeah.
And I had nightmares for weeks, and yeah, I've just never liked horror movies.
I am.
Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Those are fun movies.
Evil Dead.
Good, bad.
Oh yeah, I love the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, that's the classic stuff, man.
Part 1 has some issues with the whole tree rape thing.
Yeah.
You know, you might think it's funny to show your kids something kind of scary, and then you find out that it's not so funny when they're waking you up at like 3, 4 o'clock because they're jumping in bed with you and
Yeah,
freaking out.
When I was doing stand-up, I was telling this true story about, and I'm just going to condense the story. So my kid, my son always hated going outside, and I told him to get one day, dude, you got to go outside. He might have been 12. My daughter was like 9 or something like that. And my daughter was really into building these little fairy houses. She was in her like doing fairy stuff, really into like coloring books or stuff, very fairy centered. And so 2 seconds later, after he goes out, she comes in going that her brother destroyed her little fairy hut she was making with twigs, and a very 12-year-old boy thing to do. So he comes back in and and I start giving him a hard time for it. He's like, I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not afraid of you. And I said, okay, we're going to play this out. We're going to play this out. And so and this is true, and this doesn't, and so a couple of days later, because you got to play it just right. I was just sitting alone. I knew he was upstairs, and I had this movie on, and he comes in to the living room and he goes, "What are you watching?" I don't know. It's an adult movie. You probably wouldn't be interested in it. So he sits down and he goes, "What's the movie called?" It's like Alien.
Ah.
Oh yeah. He never told me he's not afraid of anything ever again after that, let me tell you.
You found his fear button,
Yeah.
huh?
You found the fear.
that first Alien was wicked. And that
It was,
wicked.
dude. He didn't.
When that thing pops out of the belly.
What really freaked him out was just because it's an old school movie, right? Alien. It takes a while to develop.
Builds
And
up.
so and if you remember the scene where the astronaut is about to touch the pod, and there's like a couple of different shots. There's like the pod going, and the astronaut's face going closer, and there's more closer shot to the pod going, and then he's getting closer. That's when my boy ran out of the room. He could not. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading the side chat. I don't like horror movies, but I love some of the greatest horror masters of literature. Like Stephen King is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Clive Barker. Remember Sammy Jenkins is talking about how it ruined horror movies for him. And I would just say you don't want to read the book because the show
book
did it
fucked
no justice.
That book.
The
There's
Shining.
just so many things with that book, dude.
Yeah, it's considered his worst ending ever because the whole rape scene under with the children, and
It was a gangbang.
yeah, it was a gangbang. It wasn't really a rape scene. Yeah, it was
And it was
gangbang.
completely gratuitous too.
Yeah,
There was no reason.
no reason for it. Yeah.
It can be in there for these children to do a gangbang. There was no reason for it.
But yeah,
man.
I mean, just the clown Pennywise far worse in the book. It was just.
Yeah,
Oh
I'll see
man,
you guys later.
it's the only book that gave me nightmares. It's the only book that gave me nightmares.
Yeah. Terrifying. I
Yeah.
mean, well written.
Yeah, it takes you there. Yeah.
Oh, it takes you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always tell
it's
people who've
weird.
read the book because as soon as you start talking about it, it's like, yeah, that part was pretty fucked up.
Yep. Yeah, and there was another part about the end that was just it made no sense at all. And I think Stephen King has come out and is like, yeah, if I could change the end, I probably would. So I think he's tried to do it through his movies, you know.
Imaginary God says Hot Fuzz was better in comparison to Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, it was the second movie, and I think the script was tighter, and there were a lot more moving pieces going on with Hot Fuzz. But I love both of those movies. In fact, I could have gotten a job over at Rogue Pictures, but I had kids. I was trying to sell them a script, and they're like, "No, we want you, Andy Hall." And I'm like, "I live 3,000 miles away," and they're like, "Well, you have a choice. Either your kids are working for us." And I'm like, "Okay." It's just going to be one of my many vows of poverty I have.
Yeah, not much of a choice there.
Not much of a choice. No.
Yeah, Simon Pegg and his partner that often plays in those films with them,
Nick Frost.
they do a good job.
Nick Frost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Frost. Yeah.
And Edgar Wright, who was the director for both of those, and also did Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Brilliant stuff. Yar. I don't know if I did that right.
Yar.
Yar. Yeah.
I had a chance to go work for Disney when I was younger, and I instead of getting on the bus and going to Florida, I went on a drug spree. And I still I think it's one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I don't work for the evil empire.
Yeah.
The people who work at Walt Disney in the Walt Disney World are miserable people. They're so unhappy. It is so weird. I don't really understand it. I would think they would be joyous, happy people, but I've met a lot of them and they are miserable.
I was gonna be a starting writer for him on a low levels. It was back in my 20s. I won some writing contests and they took notice. And yeah, my dad gave me the money to go down to Florida and be set up for a good month until the income started to come in, and I went and blew it on drugs and never went. And it's still like, yeah, it was back when I believed in God. So I always put it on God. Like, yeah, God was really leading me on that shit. Because I've never liked Disney. I outside of the Marvel movies, I don't really watch them. I don't let my daughter watch them. I think they're the evil empire. I think they're trying to take over the world. Well, I got my tinfoil hat on now.
If there's one thing that you've learned from this stream, is that actually you could have been watching something penned by Rage, or from me, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've always disliked them. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, they have LGBTQ friendly policies. So
Walt Disney was a horrible man.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Henry Ford. Everybody venerates this dude, and I'm like, he wasn't a great person.
Yeah. Well, it's the halo effect, right? It's that cognitive that if they're popular for one thing, that must mean that they're great people, and that's not true. Not true at all.
Yep. Ramblings of a sick man today.
Yeah. So how long do you think this thing's going to knock you out for, Rage?
I'm getting better today. I definitely feel better. I woke up at 4 a.m, drenched in sweat. So I think I broke it, last night. So it's just I'm back to work tomorrow. Can't afford to miss another day of work. So it's got to, I'm thinking I'll be okay.
I ask you this in the most non-judgmental way, because I know it's difficult, but how's the not smoking thing going?
Oh, I've failed at that utterly. I did like 3 months. I didn't smoke a cigarette. But now I'm smoking probably more than I was before. I do have plans, and I still have the medication, so I'm going to try it again. It's just getting my mind right, and
that's what it is.
I keep putting it off. Yeah,
and that's what it is. The fact that you quit for 3 months is great, and addiction. It takes a couple of times, right?
See, I think my problem was I didn't quit smoking weed, so I never really got after I smoke weed, I want to smoke cigarettes, and I never really got rid of that. So I'd smoke weed, and I'd have that, I want a cigarette, and I can't have one. So I think that's what eventually broke me down. So this time I got to quit smoking the weed, and I said I was never going to do that, but I got to quit smoking the weed.
It gets difficult because there's certain things you do in the day that will prompt a cigarette. Like one of them is me getting into a vehicle. Like if I'm going on a car ride, I will light up a cigarette, and I almost don't even think about it. Like there's certain things.
It totally it totally becomes your entire identity, and you don't even realize it, because everything you do kind of involves a cigarette. So at work, like I'm used to going out 3 minutes, smoking half a cigarette, and it kind of gives my brain a time to refocus and get back into the madness. I don't do that I wasn't doing that anymore, so it kind of fucked up my flow at work, like everything. And it's something that everybody that's quit smoking said is something that you never truly get over. That's how powerful this drug is.
Yeah.
It is.
Indeed. Well, keep up the good, keep up the trying.
Oh yeah,
and then sooner or later you will.
Yeah, sooner or later it'll happen. It's just hopefully it's sooner than later, because I want it. I hate smoking the damn things. I really do. I started smoking because my dad smoked. I don't want my kid hates it, but I don't want her to start smoking because she grew up around me smoking. So
yeah.
It's weird too, because like as a kid, I hated cigarettes too. Like I had a parent who would light them up.
Yep, I hated it too.
Make me like nauseous.
Yeah.
You hit that period where you want to be an adult, but you're like 12.
Right. Well, I'm actually going to have to close up shop because I have to go to work later on today.
Okay.
So thanks.
Time to go take care of responsibility.
Yeah.
Got to do the bills.
Yeah, good talk. I appreciate y'all having this, and I would try to be here more, but I've been doing my work mostly in the morning, so I'm going to try to show up a little bit more than I have been.
We do what we can, right? We do what we can. Take care, everyone.